Most people think the scariest part of trucking is falling asleep behind the wheel or jackknifing on black ice. And sure, those are real dangers. But after a few years running loads through America's loneliest highways, you realize something else. It's not just the roads you have to watch out for. It's what's on them, or worse, what's out there, just off them. Name's Rick. I've been driving long haul for over 14 years now. Started right after I turned 22. Back then, I just wanted the freedom, the open road, the silence, the paycheck. Didn't think much about the loneliness, or what it does to a man. You get used to it mostly, but I'll tell you this, some things I've seen after midnight, they've stayed with me way longer than they should have. Now I'm not the superstitious type. I don't go chasing ghosts or watching horror movies in my sleeper between runs. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy. But some nights, man, some nights the dark out there just feels thicker than it should, heavier, like it's watching you. There's a reason some truckers won't run past 11 p.m. There's a reason some routes have nicknames like Bloodstretch, the Hollow Spine, or Dead Man's Turn. You laugh at it when you're new. Think it's just trucker folklore board guys trading creepy stories on the CB. But then you hit your 5th or 6th year, and you've logged enough miles through empty counties where the gas stations have no names and the radio dies for hours at a time, and suddenly those stories start feeling less like fiction and more like warning signs. I remember one night in particular, a load of produce from Idaho heading down into Arizona. Nothing complicated. But the route had me crossing a stretch of desert highway after midnight, no shoulder, no lights, no traffic, just 80 miles of blacktop wrapped in silence. Everything felt normal at first. Cruise control was on, Sirius XM humming low, and I was sipping coffee to stay sharp. Nothing weird, nothing unusual, until my headlights caught something darting across the road. Not a deer, not a coyote. It moved too fast, too smooth, and it didn't react like an animal should have. Just disappeared into the brush on the other side. No sound, no rustle. At first I tried brushing it off, probably exhaustion, right? Trick of the eyes. But the next few hours, they made me realize that wasn't the only thing out there. Not the only trucker who's seen things they can't explain. We don't always talk about it. Some guys pretend it never happened. Others go quiet when you bring it up. But later night runs change you. So if you're listening to this on a night shift, if you're out there hauling at 2 a.m. with the road stretching out forever in both directions, just know this, you're not always alone out there. I was about 4 hours into that run from Idaho to Arizona when I started feeling it, a kind of quiet that doesn't just sit around you, but presses into you. The road I was on wasn't even that remote by trucker standards. Route 191, long desert stretch, sure, but I'd driven worse. No snow, no storms, good visibility. The air was cold, dry, and still. Dashboard said it was 36 degrees outside. Not freezing, but definitely cool enough to keep the windows up. Everything was fine. Really. Until 1:13 a.m. I remember the time because I'd just looked at the clock, mentally counting down to the next rest stop. I had another hour and change before the next fuel point, and I was debating whether to push through or stop early. Then the CB crackled. Not unusual, but here's the thing, mine was off. I'm not one of those guys who rides with it on all night. Too much static, too many prank calls and ghost channels. Unless I'm convoying with someone, I keep it off. Yet clear as day, through the speaker, I heard a voice. A man's voice, whispering, garbled, just a few words, then gone. Behind you. I froze, turned the CB knob up, still off, completely. I clicked it on, scanned channels, nothing, just dead static. Then it happened again, just once more, barely audible. Stopped the truck. This time it felt like the voice was in the cab, like it didn't come from the CB at all. I immediately checked my mirrors. Nothing behind me, nothing in either blind spot. Headlights still slicing through the dark, but no other cars in sight. I adjusted the cabin dome light and glanced into the sleeper. Empty. I was probably just tired, right? Your brain does weird things when it's working too hard in a sleep-deprived state. That's what I told myself. I shook it off, took a deep sip from my travel mug, and flipped the music back on. But about 10 minutes later, the lights started. Out in the desert, tiny flashes, like distant car headlights bouncing in the distance. At first I thought they were ATVs or a dirt biker cutting through the off-road trails, but they were too low to the ground. And they weren't moving across the desert. They were pacing me. Just off to the right side of the road. Too far out to be someone walking, too close to not be noticed. It was hard to keep my eyes forward after that. I found myself checking the passenger mirror every 5 or 10 seconds. I slowed down just a little, enough to see if the lights would keep pace. They did, like they were hovering, maybe 15 feet off the ground, maintaining a fixed distance with perfect stability. No bumping, no flickering, and worst of all, they never caught up to me or fell behind, just kept tracking. The first thing my brain jumped to was drones. Maybe some weird test equipment, maybe a night patrol from a border unit, but deep down I knew no drone I'd ever seen could move like that. No bobbing, no hum, no deviation in course. Just those steady, pale blue lights, gliding over the desert brush without touching a single thing. I passed a small sign that said Cortez, 72 miles. Still a ways to go. The road ahead was pitch black, lined by low shrubs and rock, with no other headlights anywhere, and those damn lights stayed in my peripheral after another 15 minutes. They disappeared, just gone. I slowed down again, checked all sides, nothing, no tire marks, no dust trail, no blinking red lights. Just darkness. But the moment I looked forward again, I swear to God I saw someone on the road. I slammed the brakes, nearly locked up the trailer. Heart jumped into my throat. But when I came to a full stop, there was nothing there. I sat there in the cab, engine idling, staring out at the asphalt. Empty. I took a breath, then slowly rolled forward again. About 30 seconds later, boom, a loud slam from the passenger side of the cab, like something hitting the door from outside. I swerved hard. The trailer fishtailed for a second, but I caught it, pulled to a stop, flipped on every external light I had, and jumped out with the tire iron. I checked around the truck, under it, even up top, using my flashlight beam. No one, not a soul in sight. No animals either. No sign of damage. No dents on the door. Just a faint outline of something oily smeared on the glass. Not a handprint. Not quite. It was too long, like someone had dragged their whole forearm across it while pressing. But it was high up, at a height no person could easily reach from the ground. It was at that moment I realized I hadn't heard any desert noise for miles. No insects, no insects, no owls, not even wind. Just the hum of my own engine. Back in the cab, I started rolling again, more cautious this time. But my nerves were shot. Every bump felt sharper. Every shadow on the side of the road made me jump. Then around 2:05 a.m., the CB came on again, even though I had physically flipped it off after the last time. This time, no voice, just a sound, like static, mixed with heavy breathing. It went on for about 30 seconds, and just before it cut out, there was a new voice. It didn't speak English, didn't sound like any human language. It was wet, guttural, like whispering through water, and gravel. Then silence. Just static, then nothing. By the time I hit the outskirts of Cortez, I was shaking. My shirt was soaked. My hands were white-knuckling the wheel. I pulled into a 24-hour gas station and sat there for a while, not even getting out, just sitting, staring ahead, engine off, lights on. Eventually, I made myself step down and walk inside. The old guy behind the register looked up, nodded. "You all right, driver?" he asked. I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could say anything, he added, "You didn't take 191 this late, did you?" I nodded slowly. His face didn't change, but his eyes dropped. He grabbed a thermos, poured a second cup of black coffee, and slid it across the counter. "Don't run that road after midnight," he said. "You'll see things." I wanted to ask more, but something in his tone told me he wasn't going to say anything else. He'd said what he needed to, and I'd seen just enough to understand. I left that gas station in Cortez with my second cup of coffee, hands still shaking. I told myself it was nerves, that I just needed sleep, that I'd driven too long without proper rest and my brain was playing tricks on me. That's what exhaustion doesn't make shadows crawl and sounds come from places they shouldn't. But no matter how many times I tried to tell myself that, I couldn't shake the cold weight sitting in my chest. The same kind of weight you feel when someone stands behind you, close enough to breathe on your neck, only no one was there at least. No one I could see. I rolled back out onto the highway. Just after 2:30 a.m. everything was still. No traffic, no voices, no lights, except mine. And yet it didn't feel empty, it felt watch. It started small. Just a subtle shift in the air, inside the cab. You know how a truck has that specific hum, like a living creature when you're on the move. I've driven that rig for over 5 years. I know it sounds like the back of my hand, but something about it was off now. The hum was still there, but it was out of tune. Like the rhythm was lagging half a second behind itself. Like someone else was trying to mimic the truck's sound but getting it slightly wrong. That probably doesn't make sense. But I knew it wasn't just in my head, because the moment I noticed it, the temperature dropped again. Fast. From comfortable to bone-deep cold in seconds. My breath fogged up in front of me. I reached over to check the climate control. Still set to 72. Fan running fine, but the air blowing from the vents felt like it was coming from a walk-in freezer. Then came the movement. Not outside, inside. It was subtle at first. A shift of weight on the passenger seat. I glanced over, nothing there, but the seatbelt was twisted. Like someone had sat down quickly and pulled it across their lap. I stared at it for a long second, trying to remember if I'd left it like that. I hadn't. I never do. I leaned over, reached out, and slowly unbuckled it. The second the metal clicked back into place, the CB hissed once and then cut out again. The silence that followed felt louder than noise. I kept driving. What else was I gonna do? I thought about stopping, parking the rig and just getting out, walking into a lit area, maybe even calling someone. But who do you call when it feels like you've picked up a passenger that doesn't exist? So I kept going. I turned the music up, tried singing along to Stay Grounded. Didn't help, because about 20 miles out of Cortez, things got worse. I caught movement in my side mirror. A shape quick, darting behind the trailer. I flicked the camera monitor on, nothing there. But as I leaned forward, I caught something in the rearview. Only for a second. Something crouched behind the seats. Not sitting. Perched. Its limbs were too long, its head hunched low, like it was balancing, watching. I spun around in my seat. Gone. Just empty space. But the impression was there. You know how you walk into a room and just know someone was there a second ago that I pulled over? Right there on the shoulder, cab lights on, dome light full brightness. I ripped open the sleeper curtain, searched the back, top to bottom. Nothing but the cold, still there. I forced myself back into the driver's seat and got moving again. The tires rolled heavy. The engine sounded off, still dragging behind itself, like it was trying to pull something else along with it. Then the radio came on by itself. The actual stereo. I hadn't touched the dial in over an hour, but it came on full blast, just static then. Cut to a song. Old scratchy, like from a broken record. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. It was distorted, slowed down, twisted. I slammed the power button. Dead quiet again. But the cab smelled burnt now, like rubber and meat. That was when I realized I hadn't passed a single other vehicle in over an hour. Not one truck. Not one car. No signs of life. Just blacktop and desert and that sick, silent presence behind me. I hit the next town. Just a cluster of buildings in the distance and pulled into the first open lot I could find. Looked like an abandoned diner lot. Half the windows were boarded up. No working lights, but it was better than the road. I parked diagonally, facing the exit. Engine idling. Then I got out, stood in the cold, walked a full circle around the truck. Then I saw footprints. Coming from behind the trailer. Small, barefoot, toes splayed wide. They led all the way to the passenger door and stopped. There were no return tracks. Whatever left them didn't leave. I opened the cab again, climbed in slow, checked every inch. Sleeper, storage bins. Under the seats, nothing. I sat in the driver's seat, breathing hard, staring at the windshield. And that's when I felt it. The breath on the side of my neck. Wet, slow, just one exhale. I didn't turn around. I started the truck and gunned it out of there like hell was behind me, because I'm not sure it wasn't. I didn't stop again until daylight started breaking over the hills even. Then, I parked near a busy gas station, under floodlights, with people around, and when I finally stepped out, I found 3 scratches on the inside of the passenger door window. Thin, perfectly straight. From the inside, I've always believed every trucker has a line they won't cross. For some, it's weather, for others, it's mountain grades or certain city traffic at night. But for me, that line used to be purely practical. Until that night, after what I saw, that line shifted into something I can't really explain. It had been daylight for a few hours when I finally thought I was clear of it all. The sun was warming the horizon behind me as I rolled along a long, lonely stretch of road about 40 miles out of Tucson. I thought maybe I was past it, that whatever it was had lost interest in me, that maybe I'd just imagined more than I realized. But around 9:15 a.m., I stopped for fuel. I love's on the edge of nowhere, the kind of place truckers pass through, without even talking. I filled up, stretched, bought a Gatorade and a granola bar, and headed back to the cab. And that's when I noticed it. My passenger mirror had tilted, not much, but just enough that I could see a new angle. I didn't think anything of it, until I realized it wasn't the wind or a bump that moved it, because the glass wasn't just tilted, it was warped. The reflection looked delayed, like when your webcam glitches during a Zoom call. I leaned closer, tapped the mirror gently. It rippled like water. I jerked back. Okay, I whispered. I've had enough. I got back in the cab and told myself it was all stress, just lack of sleep. Maybe a fever. I even texted my dispatcher to say I was taking the next 36 hours off once this load was dropped. I needed a break, but I didn't get one, not even close. Back on the road, the sense of dread returned within 20 minutes. It was like something crawled back in with me. First the temperature dropped. I saw the condensation return to the windshield. My breath fogged the glass again. Even though the heater was blowing strong, the stereo cut out, then turned itself back on, blasting that same eerie, slowed-down version of You Are My Sunshine. I slammed the power button. Dead silence again. Then my CB radio flicked on, even though I had physically disconnected it at the last stop. Static again. But underneath it, breathing that it wasn't steady like someone sleeping. It was strained, raspy, like someone trying not to choke. Then the whisper came back. You brought me with you. I pulled over. No debate this time. Skidded to the gravel shoulder. Turned the key off. Opened the cab door and sprinted into the open desert. 20 yards away. Not stopping until my legs burned. I turned around. Breathing hard. Hands on my knees. The truck's headlights blinked. Off. On. Off. Then all the interior lights lit up, including the dome light in the sleeper. It looked like someone was moving inside. Asterisk. I couldn't see clearly, but I saw a shadow. A silhouette. Someone standing behind the driver's seat. I wanted to throw up. I called 911. I don't know what I thought they'd do. Maybe I hoped they'd send someone to check the rig. Maybe I just needed to talk to a human voice. I got connected to a dispatcher. I told her someone had broken into my truck. She asked for the make and license while I was on the call. I walked slowly back toward the truck. Nothing moved now. Lights off, cab silent, engine dead. The dispatcher said she'd send a highway unit to check it out. Told me to wait nearby. I stood 10 feet from my own truck, sweating and shivering at the same time, and then a handprint appeared on the inside of the windshield. It pressed out slowly. 5 fingers, SPLAYED. It dragged down, leaving a smear behind. I dropped the phone. I backed up until my legs hit a slope and I fell into the dirt. I lay there, staring at my own rig, breathing fast and shallow. Then the truck's horn blared long, unbroken, like someone sitting in the seat with both arms on the wheel. It stopped after 15 seconds, and I heard the cab door click open, the driver's side door, and it slammed shut again. The dome light flicked off. It was dark inside again. That's when the state trooper pulled up. I flagged him down frantically, tried to explain. He looked skeptical, but went over to the cab, hand on his belt, flashlight out. I followed him 10 feet behind. He opened the door, peered inside, checked the sleeper, then turned to me. There's no one here, he said. I told him what I saw. He looked at me like I'd been drinking. I told him to check the mirror. He did. Then he paused. You cleaned this mirror recently? I shook my head. He turned the flashlight slightly, and that's when I saw it. 2 scratches, dozens of tiny ones, like fingernails from the inside. He didn't say anything more, told me to get some rest, suggested I might have had a stress episode. Then he drove off. I watched his cruiser disappear, and when I turned back toward the truck, the cab lights were on again. I don't know what possessed me to get back in, but I did. Maybe I just couldn't leave my life behind. I sat down, key in ignition. Paused. Checked every mirror. Nothing. Turned the key. The truck rumbled to life, but the passenger seatbelt clicked. I didn't touch it. I didn't even look at it, but it tightened, pulled snug like someone had buckled in, and then the voice came again, not from the radio this time. Not from the CB, from somewhere between my ears. Now we ride. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just started driving. I didn't take another load for over 3 weeks. After that, I parked my rig at a buddy's yard in Texas and crashed on his couch. Told him I was sick, burned out, needed time off. I didn't go into detail because what the hell was I supposed to say? That something non-human had ridden in my passenger seat for over 400 miles. That it bled into the mirrors and whispered inside my head. That it showed up in reflections but never in reality. I wasn't ready to sound insane, even if I felt like I was. The worst part, that feeling, that weight never fully went away, even in a real bed, with a fan running and a TV playing something dumb in the background. I'd wake up cold. Always cold. And sometimes, especially after midnight, I'd hear things from the hallway, from the window, whispers, not loud but wet sounding, like breath passing over broken glass. I started leaving every light on, stopped checking mirrors altogether. I even hung a sheet over the bathroom mirror like I'd read in some old superstition thread. It didn't matter because deep down I knew it wasn't the truck that was haunted, it was me. 3 weeks turned into 4, then 5 in one night. I got a call from dispatch. "Hey, Greg," said, "I know you've been laying low, but we got a short haul if you want back in." He didn't press it, didn't guilt trip me, just gave me the option, and like an idiot, I said yes. The route was simple. Dallas to Amarillo. Overnight, just 5 hours straight. I told myself it'd be different this time. I told myself whatever that thing was, it was tied to that old run, that it wouldn't follow me here. I told myself that even if something felt off again, I'd power through it. Just one night, one clean shift. I should have known better. Things felt normal at first. I picked up the trailer around 6 p.m., got fuel, hit the road by 7. It wasn't until 10:30 that I noticed it. The rear view was vibrating, just slightly, not from the road. Wasn't that kind of shake, it was internal, like the mirror itself was humming. I tried not to look at it, turned the dash lights up, rolled the windows down, but then the passenger seatbelt pulled tight again. Click, just like before, and I felt the temperature dropped out, that same awful pressure in the air, like something was crawling back in. This time, I didn't scream, didn't panic. I just gave in, and I asked it something out loud. "What do you want from me?" No reply, just silence. Then the radio flickered on, static, for a few seconds, and then a voice, not mine, not anyone I knew, spoke through the speaker. "To ride." The voice was deep, old male, maybe, or something pretending to be. I said, "Where?" The voice paused, then ***, wherever you go. That was it. Nothing else happened the rest of the trip. No shadows in the mirror. No handprints. Just that seatbelt, staying tight, and the cold. Always the cold. I made the drop, signed the paperwork, and parked the truck at a rest stop before sunrise. I sat behind the wheel for a while, engine off, just watching the light creep up over the hills. I felt empty. Not scared anymore, not angry, just resigned, like I'd become part of something I didn't ask for, like I'd opened a door that would never fully close. Later that day, I tried researching similar stories, truckers who experience strange things on the road. Turns out there's a lot of them. Forums full of drivers who swear they've seen things in their mirrors, heard voices on dead CB channels, watched passengers appear and vanish from their cabs. They all said the same thing. It starts at night, it gets colder than it should, you feel like you're not alone, and then, once it claims you, it doesn't leave. Ever. Some drivers have theories. They say it's the spirit of the road itself, something old, ancient. Something that lives in the silence between mile markers and feeds off the loneliness of long hauls. Some think it's the ghost of a forgotten driver lost on a run, never found, who tries to finish his route by hijacking others. Some say it's a demon, a parasite, but the smart ones, they don't ask questions, they just drive. I'm still on the road today. I try to run only daytime loads, avoid isolated highways, never take detours through places I don't recognize, but it doesn't matter because no matter where I go, at some point during the night, the passenger seatbelt clicks, and I see fog on the window, even when it's 80 degrees out, and sometimes, just sometimes, I catch a reflection that isn't mine. Smiling. Waiting. So if you're out late one night and see a long-haul rig rolling slow with its lights dimmed, and you feel the air get colder as it passes by, don't look at the driver and don't look in the mirror, because if you see him, he's already seen you.